Well, hello.
Hi.
Welcome back for another episode of Tea Party with Ghost. I'm Ash.
And I'm Ghost.
And what tea are you having tonight, Ghost?
Just plain old redneck sweet tea.
The best kind of tea.
Yeah.
And
I was saying I didn't feel like drinking anything hot before bed, so...
Yeah. And I'm having some nice Earl Grey tea. I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. Mine will probably be a shorter episode this week. I just have 7 short little stories for us that I found interesting, entertaining, all that fun stuff. So the first one it's titled A Decapitated Saint and a Talking Head.
That sounds wild.
Yeah. So, when the Vikings were raiding England in the 9th century, a saint named Edmund turned himself over to the invaders rather than have his people be overrun, according to Elfric of Eynsham Lives of Saints. Elfric was an English abbot who wrote hagiographies, homilies, and biblical commentaries in the 10th and 11th centuries. Edmund tried to convert the Viking invaders, and in response they tortured and beheaded him, throwing his head into the forest.
Yeah, I guess
This is
just
why
throwing heads.
This is why you should keep your beliefs to yourselves, people.
Yep.
Contemporary Christian burial customs dictated the head must be buried with the body for sake of wholeness, anticipating the resurrection of the dead at the Last Judgment. A witness who had seen the beheading had an idea where to look, so a search party traveled the woods, calling out for Edmund. Eventually, hearing the head itself respond, "Here, here, here."
Edmund! Edmund!
They find Edmund's head, which was speaking to them, miraculously being guarded by a wolf which kept the carrion animals at bay. After the head was recovered, Edmund was given a martyr's burial.
I want to know what drugs they were on. If they had a talking head.
Well,
Just a head.
just the decapitated head of a saint.
There again, I want to know what drugs they were on.
Years later, Edmund's body was exhumed from the local churchyard to be moved to a nicer location. Elfric wrote that his body looked almost entirely healed and that the head had seemingly reattached to the body, with just a thin red line around his neck to show where he had once been beheaded. Beautiful story.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That,
Okay.
And that's the end of the story?
That's it. That's just a little bitty story. So it's basically, I guess I should have prefaced this. The stories are from medieval England, France, and Iceland, and this is sort of like their folk tales surrounding death.
Oh, okay.
And like the Walking Dead, kind of.
So you should have prefaced this
I should have. So the next story is called A Forgotten Saint Haunts a Blacksmith's Dream. And I'm going to apologize for some of these pronunciations of the words. I'm going to butcher them.
Are all your stories about saints?
No.
So it's just a coincidence that the first 2 are...
It's a coincidence that the first 2 are, yep.
A coinky-dink.
A coinky-dink. Elfric wrote of another saint, Swithun? We'll say Swithun. Whose gravesite had been forgotten by his community. To ensure his veneration and remembrance, Swithun first appeared in a vision to a local blacksmith, telling him where to find Swithun's grave, and how to know it's his. There is an iron ring on the coffin lid, he told them, and if you can pull it open, then all this has been true. The blacksmith was too scared to follow through, however, and an increasingly frustrated Swithun had to visit him 3 times before the smith finally went to the grave. Political turmoil in the local church prevented Swithun's body from being moved inside the church, so his spirit took another approach. He began appearing to others in the community, telling diseased people to visit his tomb to be healed. Eventually, the king notices the healings and tells the bishop to re-enter Swithun's body within the church. Re-enter, not re-enter his body. Okay.
So what does reinter mean?
It means to put him back in,
Yeah.
put his grave back in the church. Okay. After Swithun's body is moved, more and more people come to the tomb for healing. Elfric wrote, so much so, the walls were lined with the crutches and stools that had belonged to those who had been healed of their physical ailments. I will say, a lot of stories written about saints are wild. I'm going to have to do an episode just based on stories on some of the saints.
So, who is Elfric? Is he just like an author from way back when, or?
Yeah, he just wrote a lot in the 10th and 11th centuries. He was English.
I've never heard of him. So,
So this next one is called A Biblical King, a Witch, and a Seance.
that sounds like fun.
Sounds like a party. All right, Elfric also writes about this one. So Elfric also wrote a homily on the problem of consulting auguries or omens. Okay.
Yeah, augury.
Augury, okay.
Yeah, they're people who, augurers are people who find omens and stuff. One of the podcasts that I listened to, The New Witches,
Yeah.
they interviewed an augurer, and
So
like
they
he sees like patterns and stuff, and yeah,
So like omens present themselves to these people? Or they research them? Or
no,
kind of
they
both?
present themselves.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you need to look into it.
I might do that. He includes the biblical Old Testament story of King Saul's encounter with the witch of Endor. In the biblical version, the king asks a medium to raise the spirit of the prophet Samuel, who, upon being disturbed, becomes enraged with Saul and tells him that the following day both Saul and his entire army will die. Both prophecies are true. The army is vanquished in battle and Saul commits suicide. Elfric contends that witches cannot actually raise the dead. They just conjure the devil in the appearance of the dead person, and attempting to commune with the dead leads to certain damnation. In medieval England, practicing any kind of magic was expressly forbidden. So, it's likely Elfric brought the story up to address the contemporary issue of practicing necromancy among his readers, especially at ominous places like crossroads where heathens and criminals were often buried. It's not really what necromancy is, but...
I think it's an interesting idea that they're not actually raising the actual dead, but having like a... Well, they said, they got the devil to present himself as that. But I don't know. I just think it's an interesting theory.
I mean, it's highly unlikely the devil is going to have...
Free time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But instead of it like being the devil, though, it could be like some kind of shape-shifting...
Well, yeah, I mean, like
something another.
And like if you look up like modern witchcraft and stuff like that, if you don't know what you're doing, you're definitely going to
summon something that you don't need to be summoning.
Something, yeah, that you don't want to.
Have you seen that meme that is of when you're practicing Latin, but you mispronounce some words and you actually accidentally summon Satan and there's a goat in the background?
Yeah. No, I've seen that. That's funny.
Have you seen the people who has a living room rug and it's of like a Ouija board? And it says, "Could you imagine how many demons a Roomba's gonna?"
Oh no! Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right, that's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
When your Roomba accidentally summons the devil.
Oh my god. Oh Lord. Okay. Elfric closes the homily by noting that witches still go to the crossroads and to heathen burials with their illusions and call to the devil, and he comes to them in the likeness of the man who lies buried there, as if he arises from death, but she cannot do that, raising up the dead through her magic. He's correct about that. You can't raise the dead through magic. You can call in spirit, but anyways.
I mean, if you're playing Skyrim, all you have to do is just be a necromancer, and then you can just, raise skeletons and everything in the caves.
I mean, All right. So the next one is a dead baker who throws rocks at villagers. Sounds like my kind of man.
Yeah. Get the fuck away from me and chunks rocks at them.
Alright, so near the end of the Middle Ages, in the 15th century, a story circulated about a baker in Brittany who, after his death, continuously came back to life, much to the chagrin of his village. According to Ghost in the Middle Ages, The Living and Dead in Medieval Society by Jean-Claude Schmitt, on the baker's first resurrection, he returns home where he attempts to help his family knead bread dough, but instead scares them away. Oh. He just wanted to help them. After the neighbors chase him away, the baker returns, throwing rocks at villagers and generally wreaking havoc. I don't blame him. Some notice his legs appear to be covered with mud up to his thighs. When a group of locals dig up his body to make sure he is properly buried, they find his corpse is muddied up in the exact same way. The villagers tried weighing his body down to keep him in the grave, and when that didn't work, they resorted to breaking the corpse's legs. After that, the Breton baker did not rise again.
He just wanted to make bread.
That's rude. He just wanted to come back and help his family.
Dickheads.
Oh, they went and broke his legs, man. That's rude.
Dickheads.
Jesus. All right. So the next one is called The Determined Ghost of a Vengeful Father. An Icelandic family saga titled, and I'm not going to pronounce this because this is a hard Icelandic word, I'm assuming. It translates to The Saga of the People of Eyri? E-Y-R-I. Would that be Erie?
We're just going to go with Erie.
Cool.
But if that's not how you say it, we're sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You can let us know. It also catalogs several hauntings in medieval Iceland where the walking dead, called Draugr in Old Norse, sometimes return with malicious intent.
Hey, Draugrs are in Skyrim as well. I can turn anything into Skyrim.
I mean, look, Skyrim's the best game of all time.
Debatable, but yes.
No, I will argue that to my grave. You know how many times I bought this game because they keep redoing it?
Yeah,
and it's the same game?
Yeah, I know.
Best game of all time.
And how many times we keep going back and playing it.
Yeah, best game of all time. Okay. So, one of the tales is about a man named Arnkel and his father, Thorolf Haltfoot, who died sitting up, eyes open, at the family's dining room table. Beautiful.
I wish I could do that during some of my family gatherings. If I'm not drunk off my ass, I just wish I could do that.
I mean, Arnkel warned his family not to walk in front of the man's line of sight. He covered up the face and ordered a hole to be cut in the wall through which Thorolf could be carried out, likely to confuse the body in case the undead Thorolf tried to return home. Both the oxen who carried Thorolf to his grave died, as many animals who went near his burial site, and soon Thorolf began haunting the valley, causing farming families to flee left and right. Arnkel decided to move the body, which was all undecayed and most evil to look on. After they moved him to a new gravesite, they built a wall around it in an attempt to keep Thorolf contained. Soon after, Arnkel was killed, and even the wall couldn't keep Thorolf's ghost from returning to attempt to avenge his son. Oh. Another group of men exhumed Thorolf's body yet again, and this time they burned it, scattering the ashes in the sea. Some of the ashes, however, were caught in the wind, and a cow who accidentally ingested them later gave birth to a bull who killed a man who had seen one of Arnkel's nemesis. He was dead set on avenging his son. So the next one is Lessons on Hospitality from a Scottish Woman's Ghost. So this story also comes from that same...
the Saga of the People of Erie.
Yeah. A Christian woman from the Hebrides named Thorgunna died, leaving a few gifts to the church in exchange for prayers for her soul. As her body was transported for burial, the movers stopped for the night at a farm, where they were refused food, which was against the social customs of the day. As the movers prepared to go to sleep hungry, they heard a rustling noise in the kitchen. It was the ghost of Thorgunna, completely naked, preparing a meal for the men.
Well then, that was a sight to behold, I guess.
You know, some men like that. I don't know about ghosties, but...
I mean, I'm sure there's some weird-ass...
Well, you know.
kinks to have sex with a ghost. I'm sure you can find anything on the internet.
I'm sure you can. I'm not going to go searching for it. So, the farmers who had originally refused hospitality to the group were scared and subsequently promised them food, dry clothing, and whatever else they needed for their journey. Thorgunna was soon buried, and her ghost never bothered anyone after that. So, I have one more story, and this one is titled, A Servant Wrestles with an Undead Farmer. This is from another Icelandic saga. I am not going to pronounce the name, but it means the Saga of the People of Laxardale. It was written in the 13th century and tells the story of a violent man named Hrap, who, on his deathbed, requested to be buried vertically in the doorway of his home so that he could keep an eye on his house and family. I think someone had issues.
Yeah, that sounds
control
like
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, according to the saga, Hrap became a draugr and walked again with a great deal after he was dead, killing most of his servants in their encounters. They eventually relocated his body, but it didn't take, and the farm was abandoned. When a man named Olaf later took over the property, one of his servants came to him, terrified, saying that Hrap wouldn't leave the threshold of his former home, and that the servant had physically wrestled with him trying to remove it. All right. When Olaf went to investigate, he struck at Hrap with his spear, but Hrap broke the spearhead off and disappeared. When Olaf and a group went to Hrap's new gravesite the next day, they found Hrap entirely undecayed. Olaf's spearhead was buried with him. They eventually dug Hrap up, burned his body, and cast his ashes into the sea, and never had trouble after that. So what I'm getting at is you should just cremate these people and discard them elsewhere.
Discarding sounds like a bad,
Harsh.
like
Harsh term.
We're just gonna discard this one.
That's what it sounds like they did. Like, here you go. That was all I had for tonight. Just something short and sweet and weird, entertaining.
Yeah. So what would you do if we went to the kitchen and there was just a naked ghost woman sitting there cooking supper?
You know what? I'd probably turn around and go back to my bedroom. And just be like, you do you, man. I'm not into this.
Be like, hey, when you get done cooking us food, would you mind cleaning up the...
Yeah, well, like, would you mind helping, like, clean around the house, too, while you're at it?
Yeah, since these ungrateful-ass kids, Ellie and Ozzy, and the cats don't do a goddamn thing to help us around here.
They're freeloaders. That's it for today, so I guess we'll see you guys next week with the story that Ghost has for us.
Yeah, and I can't remember which state comes next.
Arizona?
I think it's Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the last. No,
we got Arkansas after that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I got a true crime story. So
cool. All right, well.
Yeah, so if you have anything for us, let us know. Send us pictures of your pets, please.
Yep. All of our links will be in the show notes.
Yeah, Instagram is at teapartywithghost. Email is teapartywithghost@gmail.com. So, yeah. Please send us pictures of your pets. We want to see them all.
Yeah, please rate and review wherever you're listening to us and all that fun stuff.
And if you have a spooky tale, let us know.
Yeah. All right, well, bye.
Bye.